Welcome to Project Fast Fish here on Mike's Motorworks, and if you've been following the project, we have a nice update for you. We're going to give you a glimpse of what's coming around in the near future and what to expect on future episodes. It all happens right now here on Project Fast Fish. So if you followed Project Fast Fish from the beginning, you know that I was gifted a '73 Plymouth Barracuda for my 18th birthday. Now I highly encourage you to go back and watch the first episode of Project Fast Fish. And if you've also followed us, you know that I recently picked up a '72 340 CUDA, right? And the intent was to use both cars to completely make a single car out of. Now the 72 had an extra set of parts that came along with it, which was great, so I can compensate and use whichever the best parts are off of one to make complete with the other. All right, so that was the intent. So recently, just this past week, I finally got a hold of a local professional who is a retired body shop owner, and he had been working with auto bodies since the 1970s. Started off in paint, worked his way to frame and twisting and all that kind of good stuff. And he's not just a Bondo schmear, this guy's a real metal fabricator, which is kind of cool because that's somebody I wanted involved. And I clearly admit that if there's something beyond the scope of my knowledge, I'm going to look it up, I'm going to find it out so it can be done right the first time, right? I'm a hobbyist after all. I have another job that I go to regularly, okay? So with that in mind, I had this gentleman come and stop by and said, okay, here's subject number one, here's subject number two, which vehicle do I need to put my full attention on? And after just 2 minutes, he looked over the one car, said, okay, let's go see the other one. Looked over the other car and said, you clearly need to work on this one. And he was standing in front of my 73. All right, so that's what we're going to focus on. That's the vehicle that we're going to use as our foundation for Project Fast Fish. And the cool thing is, he says, you know what? There's not much you can really use off of the 72 as far as body parts are concerned. So he says, I recommend just getting your stuff and using what you can. And I said, well, that's fine. Because cool thing is that my father, he's working on a big motor, which you'll see here in the near future on Mike's Motorworks, and he wants to go back into drag racing. So that's kind of cool, right? So we're going to use the 72 to make a race car out of. So we got the 73, all right, that we're going to go into full Resto-mod, and then we'll have the 72, which we're going to make a race car out of. All right, so what are we going to get to next? Well, that's really easy. The first thing we got to do, because the 73 still needs major surgery, all right, the first thing we got to do is we got to set a good foundation. Because it's a unibody car, okay, and because it's not a frame-on body, you can't just put the car on a rotisserie and say, okay, there it is, all right? Because as you start pulling panels off, you're going to start violating the structure of the vehicle. That means we have to build a jig. All right, so the very next episode that you're going to see is building a jig for this particular e-body. And the cool thing is that if somebody else is wanting to do another unibody car, they could take the concepts from these videos and apply it on their own, all right? So I've had a chance to do a little bit of research, and again, I'm just a hobbyist, right? But I found some good knowledgeable sources, worked with good knowledgeable people to figure out exactly how to build this jig, and we're gonna make that happen so we can set the 73 on it, and we can start pulling panels off, right? And replacing those panels. So the first thing that's going to be done is we're going to build the jig, we're going to set the car on the jig, and then we're going to replace all the floor sheet metal before we get into the other structural materials like the roof, the quarter panels, so on and so forth. So I look forward to seeing you on the next few episodes. Look forward to sharing our progress, and make sure you follow along, subscribe, click, do what you need to do. Don't forget the subscribe button on the other side of the screen here to make sure that you can get the latest information on both Mike's Motorworks and Project Fast Fish. Thanks for watching.